Hello guys, welcome back. So the wait is over. It's time to create single page applications. Are you excited? Yes, me too. We are going good with coding our views, right? We have already coded two views for our book art application, the header and the book list. But the next view, cart view, is actually a different page of our application. So if we follow the static website development approach, we have to create a new HTML file and link that HTML file to the first page. Let's see how static website development works, and then we will see how we can implement SPA on top of it. Looking at our application, I can split it into two pages initially, the home page or books page and the cart page. When the application will start, it will load the index.html page, or we can say books.html page. To go to the cart page, I have to click on the cart link here. So when I click on the cart button, it will load the separate page cart.html into the browser. The whole page gets refreshed in case of website, and the URL also changes to cart.html. Websites works in this fashion, but while making web applications, we do not usually follow this approach. We follow what we call SPA, means single page application approach. In SPA, we have one main HTML page and we divide the other pages into small HTML partials or templates. And these small partials are then loaded into the main HTML file. Of course, the URL will change in the browser, but the experience will be different. So, how single page application works? We start the application with the main HTML page and we load the partials as a part of the page. So suppose we want to add a partial in this page in the blank area. We can add some hash values at the end of the URL. Then that URL will be interpreted, and based on the hash value, it will load the partial associated with the hash value right into the main page. Similarly, when we click on the cart link, the main page remains as it is, and the configured hash URL adds at the end of the main URL. These URL changes will get interpreted, the existing partial will get removed, and the new partial will take its place. Okay, so now we know SPA, it's time to see how we can implement the SPA in AngularJS. When I start doing my homework for the navigations, I usually divide my page into fixed and the dynamic parts, or you can say sections. There is a reason, as Angular doesn't support multiple dynamic sections in a page, and it's not that complex even if we have a limitation of one dynamic section only. Looking at our application, we can easily see the fixed and the dynamic parts. Header with the navigation are mostly fixed part in any application, and the pages which will load when we click on the navigation links will be dynamic. Once we define the fixed and the dynamic parts, we need to work on the partials which will be loaded into the dynamic section. Let's open the HTML. We can see our header wrapper div as a fixed part, so we don't need to do anything with it. But the books list wrapper will definitely looks like a good candidate to fit in the dynamic section. So we will take this HTML out from here and refer it with the hash name, say /books. Let's cut this HTML from here and let's create a new folder, partials, where we will keep all our partials. Create a new HTML file, say book-list.html, open it and paste the code we cut previously. Nice, we have created our first partial. Let's do some formatting. Okay, so when the user will click on the cart link, we need to load the second partial of our cart view. Let's create a new blank HTML file, say cart-list.html, and add some random HTML to it. We will refer this partial later with the hash name of say /cart. Let's run the application. Okay, so we can see only header with navigation. Our book list is blank as we have moved its HTML to different file. Now we are done with the fixed section. Let's work on the dynamic section. As I said earlier, we can have one dynamic section in a page to load our partials. We can create this dynamic section with a directive called ngView. Let's create the div element and add ngView directive to it. Now this div will be used to load all the partials into our main page. Great, so now we have our partials and a container to load these partials. But nothing will happen automatically. Our partials will not load if we click on these navigation links. We need to tell Angular which partial to load on hash changes. In a nutshell, we need to do some configuration. Our global Angular object has a function called config. Let's use that function to configure our route, hash to partials linking. We can write this function on our module also. So we can start configuring by writing myapp.config function. This config block takes one parameter, which is a function with the argument of $route provider. To configure our routes, Angular has provided us with this object. We don't need to create this object. This object is created by $injector object and provided to us as a dependency in this function. We'll discuss more about dependency injection in coming lectures. So let's use $route provider to configure our routes. We can use $route provider.when function to link our routes to the partials. Okay, so the first parameter here is the route name or a route URL. We already did a homework on our routes, so I gave our first route a name of /books. The second parameter is an object used to specify our template URL, which is nothing but path to our partial book-list.html, which we created in the partials folder. And we have also specified the controller for this partial. So let's remove the ng-controller directive from this partial as we have already configured it into the config block. It's a good practice to keep our controllers out of the partials. Nice, isn't it easy and self-explanatory to configure our routes? Let's configure the second route in similar fashion. We'll add a new when block, new route URL, and an object with a template URL. We'll add the controller later when we code this partial in detail. Okay, so we got new route URL and template URL. We can also configure the default route to which the application always navigates if the user types wrong URL in the browser. We do that with the otherwise function. Let's create the otherwise block, which takes object as a parameter, in which we can specify the default route URL using redirect to property. So we are pointing our default route to the books route, which will load the book list partial. Great, so we are done with the configuration of our routes. Now it's time to update our navigation links with these URLs. Let's update our books anchor with #/books and cart anchor with #/cart. You can notice the URL specified here matches the URL configured in the config block. So when we click on the books link, it will use the /books route configuration to load the book list partial. And when we click on the cart link, it will use the /cart route configuration. If I run the application in browser, it will not run as there is one last step we need to do to make this work. But let's run and see what error we get in the console. So our whole application is breaking because of this error, failed to instantiate module my app due to unknown provider $route provider. Can you guess why this is happening? This happens because we are not getting the $route provider object injected as a dependency here. The code for this object is written in a separate file and not in the angularjs file embedded here in the script tag. Let's include that file in the script block. We just need to copy this CDN location and paste here and change the file name to angular-route.js. If I open this file, you can see in order to have $route provider available to us, we need to include this module, ng-route module, as a dependent module for our main module. Angular has separated their code into separate modules so that they can be included as and when required. Let's include the module ng-route as a dependency here and run the application. Cool, all the errors are gone and we are getting our default route loaded. Let's test the cart route. Great, so our both the routes are working and that too without page refresh. We have one issue related to the active link here that we will fix later. Okay guys, we have covered a very important concept called routing to make SPA, single page application. I hope you found it useful. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.